This is lesson 6, and we are talking today about rests and then counting. Okay, so on the very first page, you are going to see 4 different kinds of rests. The first one is a quarter rest. A quarter rest means that you rest for 1 beat. Just like a quarter note gets 1 beat, a quarter rest means rest for 1 beat. A quarter rest is drawn between line 2 and line 4, so right in the middle of the staff. You may not draw a quarter rest way up here, okay? A quarter rest doesn't sit down here either. It goes between line 2, so you start at line 4. I usually like to draw it down instead of going up, so I start at line 4 and I draw a stretchy Z. Okay, it's kind of like arrow, arrow. And then at the end of the arrow, I draw a C as a curly tail. Okay, that's kind of a weird looking one. Let me do another one. So Z, stretchy Z. You see how that's kind of a stretchy Z? And then a C. Stretchy Z, C. Stretchy Z, C. On the staff, let me write one looking at it so that I can see it well. Stretchy Z, and then a C. Okay? Do it one more time. Stretchy Z, C. Okay? That's a quarter rest. It means to rest for 1 beat, and it's in between line 2 and 4. The next one is a half rest. A half rest means rest for 2 beats. Just like a half note gets 2 beats, a half rest gets 2 beats. I remember it that a half note starts with the letter H and a hat starts with the letter H. So these two go together. Hat, half rest. Okay? And that gets 2 beats. Now, when you draw a half rest on the staff, pay attention to this very carefully. The half rest must sit on line 3. So you draw a little box, like a little rectangle, sitting on line 3. Now, often there will be a line, like the hat brim, but you don't see it because it's on the line. So really, you just have to draw that little rectangle and then color it in. My dry erase marker is erasing itself. Let me draw it again. So a little rectangle, and it's sitting on line 1, 2, 3. This is a half rest, and it means to rest for 2 beats. Now, the next one is a whole rest. Now, many people get the half rest and the whole rest confused because they look the same except for one thing. The half rest looks like a hat. The whole rest looks like an upside down hat. Okay? But rather than thinking of it like a hat, think of it like a hole in the ground. So here's the ground. Oh, I'm drawing on the wrong one. Here's the ground, okay? And you're walking along and, oh, there's a hole, okay? You could even draw, we dig a hole to plant flowers, right? So a whole rest, you could grow something out of it. A half rest, the hat, it sits on your head. The hat sits on your head. The whole rest goes down, okay? So the same thing happens. The hole goes down. We don't dig holes up, right? So the whole rest hangs down from line 4. The half rest sits on line 3. The whole rest hangs down from line 4. The half rest sits on line 3. Now look at this. They are both in space 3. One is at the bottom of space 3. One is at the top of space 3. Okay? Half rest, sits. So you could even take your pencil and go half rest, sits, because hats sit on your head. Whole rests hang down. Whole rest hangs down, and then you draw your rest. Okay? The whole rest, many people get this confused, and you might get it today, and then next week you're going to get it confused, and you're going to send me a paper that has a whole rest hanging on line 3. Okay? But look, that's in the wrong space. So, whole rest hangs from line 4. Half rest sits on line 3. So, whatever you need to come up with to help you remember that, I'll always say half rest sits on line 3, whole rest hangs down from line 4. On your worksheet, you're going to see where I have one drawn, then you draw one in the staff next to it. Now, an 8th rest. So, an 8th note, just one 8th note gets half of a beat. Okay? So remember that we were talking about 8th notes. Let's see here. I think it was nope, it wasn't last week. We did note names last week. Maybe lesson 5? Somehow, I don't have lesson 5 in my notebook. I think last week, it was review last week. That's why I can't remember. So remember when 8th notes, if we have 2 of them, they share. So they take their brownie and they cut it in half, and he gets half and he gets half. Very kind that he shares his one beat. He only has one brownie and he cuts it in half, and his friend gets half and he gets half. So when his friend goes home, he's left with his half. Okay? So the 8th note, 1/8 note, gets half of a beat. The same thing, he has a rest. Now, what number does that look like? It looks like it's a 7. Okay? So you can say, it's a 7 rest. But do we have a 7 note? No. So it's not a 7 rest, it's an 8th rest. So you'll just have to remember, it looks like a 7, but it's really 8. And all you have to do for that is you draw a dot in space 3, and then the number 7. That's an 8th rest. Dot, 7. Dot, 7. Okay, so those are all of our rests. Quarter rest, half rest, whole rest, and 8th rest. Okay, now we're talking about time signatures and beats. So I'm going to walk through the very first exercise with you. How many beats are in every measure? Look at your page and go ahead and tell me out loud. Pretend that I can hear you through the screen. Did you say 4 beats in every measure? Then you are right. So there's going to be 4 quarter notes worth of beats in every measure. Okay, so we have some rests in here. So how many beats does the half note get? 2. So you're going to write 2 underneath that one. How many does the quarter note get? 1. How many does this quarter note get? 1. Does that add up to 4? Yes. So then that measure's good. How many beats does the quarter rest get? Write a 1 underneath. Quarter note, 1. How many beats does the 8th rest get? Oh, I drew that wrong. How many beats does the 8th note get? Half. How many beats does the 8th rest get? Half. Quarter note, 1. Quarter note, 1. What is 1 plus half plus 1. Well, we know that half and half equal 1. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 4. So we're good there. So on your paper, you don't have to put the 1 underneath. You can just put half and half. 2 eighth notes. This eighth note gets half. 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 This half rest gets 2. So what's half, and 2? 4. So on the first 4 lines on page 21, you are going to write in how many beats each note gets. We call that the note value. How many beats are inside that specific note, okay? Now, the top number of the time signature tells us, it's like just what we were doing. It tells us that there are 4 beats in every measure. But it's not like there's 4 quarter notes. 4/4 means 4 quarter notes in every measure. So we actually can count the beats in each measure, okay? So we have our note value. That's how many beats are inside of these. So how many is inside of the quarter? 1, 1, 1, 1. How many is inside of the half note? 2 and 2. And how many is inside of the whole note? 4. Okay, now that's the note value or the beats that are inside here. What are the counts? We're going to count the beats now. So this is going to be count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got to 4. So this quarter note is on beat or count 4. It gets 1 beat and it's on beat 4. 1 beat on beat 3. Okay, let's count these. This one would be 1 and 2. It would get both 1 and 2. We'd say 1, 2. Then this half note, what comes after 2? 3. And it gets 2 beats. So it gets 3 and 4. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 beats inside there, so he's going to get 2 numbers. 2 beats inside here, 2 numbers. How many beats are inside the whole note? 4. So it's going to get all 4 beats when we count. Okay, so if I was to count this, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? So yes, these are how many beats each note gets, but then we give each beat in the measure a number, and it should add up to 4. So we just keep counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have a bar line and we start over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? I call this grown-up counting because when we play an orchestra, this is how we count. We don't look at these quarter notes and go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So this is the way you will want to count. We need to know how many beats each of these notes get, but we count the beats in each measure this way. Okay, so you'll see on your paper, you're going to write in the beats. How many beats does each note get? And then count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bottom line. Okay? Same thing on page 22. How many beats does a quarter note get? Write that on the top line. How many beats is in a half note? Write that on the top line. Then on the bottom line, you're going to count them. And I put in some rests. Okay? Oh, and then at the very bottom of the page, you have some new tempo markings. Adagio. Adagio means slowly. And then, I ask you, can you think of an animal that is adagio? If we think of a sloth as lento or largo, which is even slower, adagio is a little faster than lento or largo. It's just slowly. So think of an animal that you would say it's not largo or lento, it's just adagio. Can you think of one? Then another fast tempo marking is vivace. Now it looks like vivace, okay? But in Italian we say it vivace or vivace. And it means brisk or spirited. So vivace is a little slower than prestissimo and presto, which are very fast. Prestissimo and presto fast. Vivace is brisk, spirited. It's still very quick. So what animal can you think of that moves vivace? Okay? And that's it for this week, and I will see you guys next week.